In your opinion, what's the most effective way to improve? Paying more attention to other people's sparring, maybe a specific way of drilling, training?
That's a great question. It's also a huge question. There's a lot said about this. I'll try and break this down. Okay, first, our ideal in jiu-jitsu is progressive training, okay? If you're getting to a situation where long periods of time are going by and you're questioning whether you're really getting any kind of better, you're getting better at all as time goes by, that's just never a good thing. There should be a sense in which when a year passes by, you should be noticeably better than you were at the start of that year. That should never be in doubt. The question is, okay, how are you going to do this? And how are you going to maximize the rate of progression? It's one thing to make progress, but are you making the most possible progress? That, I think, is the real question you're asking here. I believe the first step is to have a clear understanding of where you stand now. If you don't have a clear idea of what your current level is, what you're currently good at, and what you're currently poor at, and what you need to get to the next level that you desire, it's hard to make any kind of progress. So your first step is always self-assessment. Can you give yourself an accurate self-assessment? And what is that self-assessment going to be based on? Well, it should be based upon how you perform relative to the peers that you have around you. Who are the people you train with? How are you performing with them? What are your most successful elements? What part of the game are you performing well upon them? What parts of the game are you performing poorly? So always begin with the most accurate self-assessment you can give. I believe that the best way to gain self-assessment is through the use of video. Videotape yourself. We often have very inaccurate perceptions about ourselves. We tend to think that we're better than we really are in some ways, and we tend to underestimate ourselves in other ways. Video doesn't lie, okay? Film yourself going against other people and try to make assessments based on what you see in front of you. Listen to the opinions of some people who you trust, but also bear in mind that other people's opinions of you are often inaccurate too. So as I said, video is generally a better way to study yourself than your own perceptions of yourself or other people's perceptions. They also provide a very accurate historical reference so that a year from now you can watch yourself rolling under or sparring under similar circumstances, and you can compare the videos and give it a pretty accurate assessment. Are you making progress or not? Once you have that clear sense of assessment, who am I, what am I good at, what am I not good at, what do I need to improve, then you've got to start building a program which is designed to improve your current strengths and radically improve your current weaknesses. The two kinds of progress you always want to be making are refinement of things you're already good at. Okay, you never want to be static at things you're already good at. You always want to refine them, get better. A good example of Roger Gracie. Roger was always very, very strong in cross-collar strangles. But between 2003 and 2008, he got radically better at them. He was already good, but he wasn't satisfied with that and kept getting better until by 2008, it was almost an unstoppable technique. The other thing is you've got to identify your weaknesses and do something about that. What I will say is that you guys in this generation of jiu-jitsu have something which my generation of jiu-jitsu had to a very limited degree, and previous generations didn't have at all. You live in an information age. Okay, this is a remarkable time in human history where we have greater access to information than any generation previous to us by a landslide. Okay, you can live in the North Pole, far from anywhere, and at any given moment, you can access information from the best world champions. You can go on Roger Gracie's website and learn from the greatest jiu-jitsu athlete of his generation. You can be living in the North Pole and watch ADCC live and see the best athletes in the world competing against each other. Everyone has equal access to information. Once you gain that information, you can use that to build training programs. You don't have to be training with the best guys in the world. You just need access to the information and to train with your peers to make remarkable progress over time. Always remember that Roger Gracie, when he moved to England, was training mostly with white belts and blue belts. And yet that was the time he made the most progress in his career, because he had information, he figured things out, he used trial and error methods, he constantly worked with the students. It didn't matter that the students weren't particularly experienced, he was still making incredible progress, more than almost anyone at that time in the world. So I'm a big believer that once you make an accurate self-assessment of who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, the information is out there, okay? Then just build a training program based on refining your current strengths and working your way around your current weaknesses. I'm a big believer in positional sparring, so that if you have a current weakness with a certain kind of escape, put yourself in there. Volume of training is the key to success. You got to have knowledge, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to have a high volume of training, exercising that knowledge to turn it into a skill. By focusing on those current weaknesses, you can eventually turn them into strengths. So that we have situations that, as I said earlier in this video, jiu-jitsu was the overall performance of leg locks in jiu-jitsu 10 years ago was terrible, it was a disaster. And yet now it's one of the strongest aspects of the sport. You will be amazed at what time can do once you make a strong assessment of where you currently stand, an accurate self-diagnosis, usually best done through the use of video, the acquisition of knowledge, and you have a greater ability to make use of that now than any other point in human history. You can go on Hodge's website. You can there's numerous websites out there. There's instructional videos. You can just watch match footage of the best athletes in the world. There's an incredible opportunity for anyone, regardless of location, to gain information. Then it's a question of taking that information and building it into physical skills. Okay, it's not enough just to have knowledge. You've got to be able to perform, and that will come from a training program, which I believe should be focused primarily around positional sparring and the drilling of moves until you feel. And initially, you have to drill moves with a lack of resistance, just to get a basic feeling for the technique. And then you have to progressively work against tougher and tougher opponents, applying it under sparring conditions. And if you can do this over time, you can make remarkable progress. There's an old saying that most people tend to greatly overestimate what they can do in terms of progress over a 6-month period, but greatly underestimate what they can do over a 5 to 10 year period. Okay, if you just have some patience and work in this disciplined manner, based on a clear assessment of where you stand now, the acquisition of knowledge, and the turning of that knowledge into physical skill through a specialized training program based largely around positional sparring and drilling, you'll be amazed at what you can do to transform yourself in 5 to 10 years.